Hey there, it's Mandee Montana. Are you taking great care of your skin? You know I use great products. I take my vitamins and I drink plenty of water, but I could be better about applying sunscreen daily and making sure my skin is protected against premature aging. What about you? Well, I've got great news. I have a solution. It's the new Premium Diamond Glow Treatment at Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler. I love it. I went recently and it exfoliates and hydrates your skin at the same time. Amazing, right? My skin feels so soft and silky after. You have to try it. If you've never had a facial before, they have different options at Hand and Stone, like hydrating and brightening. But if you're struggling with dark spots, hyperpigmentation, sun damage, sallow skin, enlarged pores, or maybe oily skin, this is the treatment for you. If you want your skin to glow and look and feel amazing, book the Diamond Glow. Schedule now by visiting Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in the Cumberland Shopping Center in Tyler or online at handandstonetyler.com. Welcome to the Celebrating Women podcast, hosted by Mandee Montana. A podcast that celebrates women, their stories, their struggles, and ability to overcome. Conversations that celebrate their gifts, their talents, and courage. It's the Celebrating Women podcast. Presented by Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. With over 20 massage therapists and 6 estheticians, certified and trained in multiple protocols, you can get an affordable massage or facial located right here in the East Texas area. Book your appointment today. Stop by the spa in the Cumberland Shopping Center in Tyler or online at handandstonetyler.com. Welcome back to the Celebrating Women podcast. I'm Mandee Montana with my special guest, Amanda Peirce. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm excited for you to be here too because you have got some fun things to talk about.
There's lots of fun things happening in my life right now.
Right. You're making a big move overseas. You're starting a new business that we want to let people know about.
Yes.
All kinds of good stuff. So I guess let's start with that. Tell me where you're moving.
So I am moving to Cascais, Portugal from Tyler, Texas. And
Boom. Wow.
So not a short move at all. Really like a significant life-changing move, honestly. Yes. I currently live on a 50-acre horse farm and run a horse business, and I am moving to a 3-bedroom flat next to the ocean. So
wow. And you sound very excited about that.
I am very excited about it. There's been a lot of mixed emotions. It's very bittersweet.
I'm sure.
Owning the horse farm and running that has been my dream my entire life. Mm-hmm. So doing this whole life-changing move is not something I ever saw in my future, to be 100% honest.
Yeah. So how did it come about?
So it really started coming about, I've been hustling with my business, loving it, working hard. Horses, as you know, take a lot of time. So I've spent a lot of time just trying to find balance between doing that. I'm a single mom, and even though I have a great support system with their dad and with our families, it's still really hard to come home after a 14 or 16-hour day at the barn. That's very physical and mentally, trying to grow it, trying to make sure you're thinking of all the pieces. There's a lot of pieces that I'm not just naturally great at. Mm-hmm. And so it's mentally exhausting. So, trying to find the balance, it just has been a struggle the last couple of years. Yeah. And I don't exactly know what made the switch, but I never thought about leaving. There was always this, I could either be successful at the horses or I could fail and go work at Tractor Supply or something very extreme. And I love connecting with people. I love meeting new people, learning about what they do and connecting them with other people. And I don't know. I just always thought that was my hobby, I guess. My ex-husband and I had talked about moving before we ever got married. We never wanted to settle in Tyler. Fast forward, you get married and you stay for the family, all of that good stuff, which is great.
Kiddos, and you want to be around their grandparents.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So, there's been talk about eventually moving out of the country. So I actually late last summer was what if I just did this until my youngest, who's 9, graduates? Mm-hmm. So then I started thinking about an end to it, right. Which actually allowed me to function differently within my business and I think operate on a less emotionally attached level, and not looking at like more short-term things versus like every decision I was making, you know, really dictates the rest of my life. So then my ex-husband and I were like chatting one day, and he's like, you know, I'm looking at Portugal. I think that this might be like a great place to move to. What would you think about us moving before Mary Elizabeth, who's my 9-year-old, is in high school? You know, like what if we give like a 5-year? And I was like, okay, like maybe that would work.
So you can continue to co-parent and be a support system.
Which is like super important to us. It's like our number one priority. And what was interesting is that it all started happening like really fast. Like there was some things that came up and we talked about, you know, maybe a 5-year plan. And then this fall, we're like, what if we do like 2 years, which would, I felt like, give me a good timing to close down the business or get it to where I wanted and then close it down, or to hand it off to someone else. And then one conversation was like, what if we just do it? What if we just do it? And, you know, at that point I was like, okay, well, maybe. So I talked to some realtors, talked to some different business advisors, and I started thinking from an aspect of like, if I continue waiting, I think we are always like waiting for that perfect moment, that perfect launch. We want it to be just so. And what I've learned from this particular experience is that sometimes you just have to jump. And there's a lot about this decision that sucks and is hard from a business standpoint and from a personal standpoint. You know, when I decided that this is what I was going, you know, I tiptoed into it. I was like, okay, I think maybe I don't want to do the horses anymore. In talking to my business manager about that, we restructured my schedule so that I had more time with my children, and just to see if that would be a better fit for me. So again, not trying to shut any doors, because, you know, I wasn't really ready to like leap the airplane, I guess. So in January, I went to Portugal, and I loved it. I loved every moment of it. I had this moment when I landed where I kind of started panicking. I hadn't been out of the country alone ever, and I hadn't been away alone without like a support system ever, like in years. So I call one of my best friends and I'm like, I don't know that I can do this, Julia. Like, I don't know that I can do this. And she stopped me and reminded me that like, this is what I was made to do, was to meet new people and to dive in to different scenarios. And she's like, you're great at it. You just need to remember that you're great at it.
Best friends are so great for that. Yes. I had one do that for me probably about a year ago, and I was really going through a tough time, and she stopped me in my tracks and she was like, have you forgotten who you are?
Yes.
And I was like, I think I might have. Can you tell me? And so she did.
It's so important.
It's so important to have somebody in your life that can reflect that to you.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think
I feel really grateful for having her. And, you know, I have a lot of great women in my life. They're really strong. We take turns reminding each other that, hey, guess what? We're all going through this hard stuff. And we all have to be reminded of who we are, and that we have the strength, and that we can do really hard stuff, and that we're capable. So I went to Portugal and spent an entire week by myself. I made friends. I have people now that like I'll go back. I've been invited to go to Spain and to Paris in France and have points of contacts. But what was really cool about the people I met, and that I think was significant in my decision making, is that every person that I met had within the last 5 years uprooted their old life and completely started new somewhere else. Not just starting somewhere new and starting like with the same company, like literally uprooted their whole life as they knew it and did something completely different.
That doesn't seem like an accident.
It doesn't at all. I don't think it was. Instead of moving in 2 years, I'm moving in 3 weeks. So I think that I met a lot of people that were very much put in my pathway for me to be encouraged, to know that you can do it. It's really scary. And every one of them told me it was really scary when we did it. And then you go and it's great. And then there's going to be another moment that you're just like, oh my goodness, what have I done? So they were really, really encouraging to go do something new, and that it's okay for your dreams to change and for your desires of the way you want to live your life change. And why shouldn't they? We evolve as people. I am not the same person I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
I'm not the same person I was 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Before you walked in the room. I mean, I was doing some other things, and my headspace was, not necessarily frustrated, but I was just in kind of work mode. And then you walked in and I lit up, and I was like, oh, I get to do the thing that lights me up.
Yes.
I get to talk with someone about their dreams and their goals and what lights them up. And that just, so we're not the same person. So what moment, did you have another light bulb moment in Portugal aside from meeting these people, or just maybe a sense of peace while you were there?
I had a sense of peace the entire time I was there. I've never been one to, I love traveling to the city. I think it's super fun, but I am always very much at peace at my farm. And I have been for the last 11 years that I've lived there. And I stayed in Lisbon and visited Cascais, and Lisbon's pretty busy. It's a city. And I actually felt really relaxed and at peace there. Not the same feeling as I had when I visited Dallas, obviously. And then
quite a bit different culture.
Quite a bit different culture. But even just when I lived in Washington, D.C., visited some Philadelphia, it's just not the same vibe. And so I found that interesting, is that I could see myself living in the city. Now, I ended up settling in Cascais just because I think it's easier to get to the ocean from where I'm living. And then my youngest and I ride horses a lot. So that's really close and a little bit more accessible there. So I think that, being able to be at peace in Lisbon and be able to articulate that actually, I could live here. I could live this. I could see myself doing that. And to be honest, the things just kept aligning rapidly. I had put 10 acres on the market prior to leaving, the week prior, I think. And I ended up being in negotiation all week.
While you were in Portugal?
While I was in Portugal. Yes. And then before I ever left Portugal, I had a contract signed.
Oh my goodness.
Which then allowed me to close my business the way I'd like to, and then
start something new.
Start something new. I was like, I'm going to do it. I met people on the plane on my way back that had immigrated to America 30-something years ago, and talked with them about just moving and having a new life. And they were like, you should absolutely do that. It's going to be amazing. And I still keep in touch with them. I actually met a couple on the way there, and I ended up sitting next to the wife. And the husband has a terminal form of cancer and has been going through treatments, and they have children in high school, and they were traveling, and her and I talked a lot about making the most of our time here and being intentional with our time with others. And I also think that one was put in my pathway because I am a mom. It goes really fast. My oldest is graduating, and the youngest is 9, which seems crazy to think about that she's 9 years old. I mean, truly, I have 6 or 7 years left of real parenting before it's time for her to start her new adventure. And so I think that all of these moments of meeting people were one, great encouragement that it's okay to go do something scary, and it's okay to jump in and do it. Maybe you don't know what the next step is. I know for me, when I decided that I was going to move to Portugal, I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't have any idea of exactly what this could look like. I was just like, I'm just going to go and we'll just see what happens. So
I love that attitude. I wish I was more like you.
Sometimes it's a great attitude to have, and then sometimes you need some reeling back in. But I do think that I've surrounded myself in a great community of people that I trust when they are excited and gung-ho for me to go. They have been step by step with me these last several years in decision makings for business, for personal stuff. And so I feel like I've worked hard to create that community so that not only are they here supporting me in my typical life, but they're also honest and supportive of a new life.
Yeah. And they'll be with you just a little bit further away.
Just a little bit further away.
Right?
You know, like we're working on like the time difference here. You know,
Is it about 7 hours difference?
It's 6 hours.
6 hours?
Most of the year. And there's like a couple of months where our daylight savings times is different than Portugal's. And so then it's only 5 hours.
Oh, well, that's cool. Yeah. So you're moving soon and you are starting a new business. So tell me a little bit about this, because it also kind of came together in alignment, right?
Yes. So I've, for a long time, just really felt a pull to like have a gathering of people.
You invite me to your house all the time.
Yes.
And I always have something else going on. But you're just like a natural hostess.
I love hosting people.
Yes.
I love bringing people together. And one of the things I learned through my divorce is how important community really is. I had a year, I guess it was probably two years after our separation, where I just had it like on my heart that was what I was supposed to do that year. And so I intentionally set out to build a community for myself and my girls. And it was amazing what the intentionality did for me that year. I did a lot of different things that I hadn't done before, going to the Chamber of Commerce events, meeting people that way. I got more involved in my church. I got active in junior league and then attended some Rotary Club meetings. So I met lots of people from so many different pathways. And out of all of that, when I scaled down on my activities this last year and a half, 2 years, I actually ended up with like a core group of really great friends that I do a lot of life with. And so that has been really such a blessing in all of this. Now, that being said, like I've started practicing yoga probably 2021. I really dove into it through my divorce. It was a lifesaver. I met a lot of great people through it that just really guided me towards some great reading material, and which then led to great podcasts, lots of things that just really filled my cup up. That just felt very empty at that moment. And so as I've grown through this, I've had several other friends go through divorces, and not just divorces, but like divorce with kids. And it is divorce is hard anyway. Divorce with kids is even harder because you still have to maintain some sort of relationship with your former partner. I also think that a lot of times us as moms don't spend a lot of intentional time having a community and building that community. So unless we're super involved in our church and active that way, or unless we're like a stay-at-home mom that maybe has their mom group friends, it's really hard. Like what I noticed was that there was a lot of moms that were going through divorce that didn't have that were working all day, then having to come home and take care of their kids. And then, you know, maybe their custody schedule is where the mom really has them all the time, but the mom is still doing a full-time job. I'm really fortunate that like my former partner and I are like tag team our kids. So I've always felt like it would be really cool to start uniting like these divorced moms, single women. And then just as the more I've healed from the divorce, like that's just been kind of there, like just innately, that's something that would be really cool to do. And then that nagging voice of like, oh, but like you do this. You're supposed to do this. This is what you've always wanted. You've got it. You're making it work. And there's no time for anything else. So, you know, those voices have been there for like years. And then the more I've started branching out my community and meeting new people and going and doing new things, the traveling I've done this last year, I just have just really enjoyed connecting people. And it's been really fulfilling. You know, I was part of the Girl Power event for our local junior league, and we had some issues with people not being able to make it to the event that were key parts of our event. With my network of people, we were able to pull it off and had an awesome event.
It was an awesome event.
And I left that day, and what I had done and connected people, and everyone kept coming up to me being like, Amanda, like, I can't believe you like pulled all that together, da 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 da. And I just was like, it wasn't hard. Like, it was super easy for me. It didn't take any mental effort whatsoever. It's just like came very naturally. And I just thought, oh, that's just such a neat feeling that's like something that you can be good at. And so, you know, as I'm preparing to like move and going through these really hard conversations, I had planned a trip to Philadelphia with my oldest. And while I was there, I always look at different yoga spots when I'm out of town. And I came across a yoga place, and I didn't end up getting to go, but they had a yoga retreat to Portugal on their website. And I was like, oh, this is so neat. Like, maybe I could go to it. That was my never in a million years thought anything different. And it ended up being, I think it was maybe like in April or May. So like before like I was going to be there. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe next year. But I started doing some just, you know how you go down a rabbit hole?
Oh, yeah, totally. All the time.
So it's being held at this place called Casa Fuzeta, Portugal, which is on the southern coast in the Algarve region. I just looked at the house and I was like, oh, this is beautiful. This is so neat. And then I realized that it was like a retreat house, that was its sole purpose, that it had been redone beautifully. It was like in the center of this old fisherman town. They rented out for retreats. And I sent my friend Holly a message and I said, hey, Holly, like, check this place out. Like, wouldn't it be cool, like, to do a retreat here? Mm-hmm. And she was like, oh, yeah, that'd be amazing. And I just shot an email in the dark. And I was just like, hey, like, I would love information on this. And I was sent back some dates. And then I was also sent, like, the hostess guide. And it's not just, like, you rent the house and then they, like, are like, good luck, have fun with that. She's really taken the time, the owner of Casa Fuzeta has taken the time to curate this beautiful guide of people, like an adventure, like any adventure you could think of, boating.
So like excursions.
So all the different excursions, they've already have a list to pick from.
Oh, wow.
And they don't do it for you. You have to contact the people, but they're people that they've used. They had the private chef list. They had all the excursions. They had creative excursions. And then they had some different yoga contacts and other wellness practice as well. So I was like, wow, like all of the things that I would find hard of, like, you know, okay, all these lists, right? Like what would make, in my opinion, planning a retreat hard is all the lists and thinking, trying to think of
Who do
all
you
the
contact?
pieces. Right.
How do you put this
together? It was
together?
already done.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay, what if I just like held a retreat? Like, what if I just did it?
What if?
What if? And so, and again, we get caught in the staying in our box and doing what we're supposed to do. And when you've chosen to do something, you don't leave it. So, you know, so that argument like continuously was going through my head. But I also had this moment because I was already blowing my whole life up anyway.
Why not do something else?
Why not add to it?
I got to do something for work anyway. I'm not going to have the horse farm.
And I'd had a conversation with my business manager, who's been one of my dear friends and mentors the last 4.5, 5 years, and a good friend prior to that. And she had a pretty serious conversation with me because I was living in this like fantasy land of like, okay, like I can just like move and not have a job for the next year and all of this stuff, which is not untrue. But she really encouraged me to start exploring what else I might want to do.
Right, because you want to have purpose. And
yes.
You want to do something and create. I mean, I just know you.
Yes.
Because I'm the same way. I relate to you in that. Yes.
Absolutely. And we all know that. Like,
you don't want to just sit on the beach and read and ride horses on the beach. You're going to get tired of that at some point.
Yeah. I mean, like, give me a week and then I'm going to be like, okay, like, give me something. What am I going to do with myself? Yes. What do I need to do with myself? So she made a really good point, too, because she's like, what you think you might want to do next may not be it. And she's like, so you want to give yourself time to where if it doesn't work out, or if you really don't like doing it, that you're not having to do it. She was like, you are getting a whole clean slate, so don't wait until the last minute to decide to do something and then have to be stuck doing it. So I took her advice and decided to create this retreat. So I got Holly on board, and
I've known Holly for years. So the very first yoga class I ever took was with Holly.
Yes. Holly,
and that was 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how
she's also been somebody I've been trying to get on this podcast for 2 years now.
Hey friends, it's Mandee. Have you ever wished for a protein drink that's light, refreshing, and crystal clear? Well, the wait is over. Zingular's Clear Protein Plus is finally here. With 20 grams of grass-fed whey protein isolate, 0 artificial sweeteners, and powerful digestive enzymes, this isn't your typical protein shake. It's clean, smooth, and easy on your stomach. Plus the flavors, blue raspberry and frosted lemonade. So good you won't even believe it's protein. I love how refreshing and hydrating it is, especially after a workout or a busy day. No fillers, no bloat, just clean, high-quality protein. Want to be one of the first to try it? Order now by clicking the link in show notes. Zing with Mandee. Subscribe and save to snag 10% off on this and all future subscription orders. Plus, use my code ZINGWITHMANDEE, all one word, to save $10 off your first order. It's all in the show notes. That's Zing with Mandee, XYNGWITHMANDEE. Zing with Mandee to save $10 off your first order. Click the link in show notes. Don't miss out on hitting those daily protein goals. The future of protein is clear.
I'm gonna bring her and set her down. So it's been really kind of fun in that aspect. And Holly's gonna do yoga every morning at this retreat.
It's gonna be such a great time.
Yes,
I wish I could be there.
And it is. And then we'll be part of all the excursion stuff. But I think that she's leaving a little bit of the hostessing to me and a little bit of...
Well, you love that, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because there's this moment, because not only are we stuck in this box of you have to do certain things, but also there's always this question of what am I actually bringing to the table? So one of my biggest reservations in hosting a retreat was that I'm not a yoga instructor. And so I was like, well, maybe I should do that first. Go do my yoga training and then do this. And so all of this is going in my head.
Sure. Uh-huh.
And then I allowed myself to talk to Holly about it a little bit. And she stopped me. She goes, I'm going to teach the yoga. I don't need you to teach yoga. And she goes, but what I do need you to do is what you're great at, which is hosting and bringing people, making them feel welcome. And that was such a huge weight off of my shoulders to look at it differently. That actually I do bring a lot to the table. I may not bring those specific skills to the table, but there's a whole lot more that I do bring to the table. And so it's been really fun. So we've planned this retreat, and it's July 11th through 16th in Olhão, Portugal.
Is it sold out yet?
It is not sold out.
Okay.
So I actually just went live with my new website.
Looked at it. It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I honestly didn't want a whole website. I just wanted a retreat page and a booking page. And this is where community and strong women really come into play. So my realtors recommended this great website designer who's also happens to be this amazing photographer. And she is fiery, gonna get it done. And so she's like, okay, let's do this. We're going to do the website, all of this stuff. Great. And there was not a moment where I could really be I really just want these things. And then we'll figure out the rest. So it was really holding up everything because there wasn't a whole picture. So because she's like, you want to do this more than once, right? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So not sitting down and formulating this idea to its fullness was really starting to bite me. So I finally made myself sit down and from start to finish went to what I wanted the business to look like, what I thought my goals were for it, and what the website needed to look like from there. So I went from not having a website to now I have a full-blown website that's beautifully done that I can really take so many different directions. So my business is Soulful Connections, and my goal with it is to curate events, dinners, retreats, activities, whether they're creative or adventurous, really curate spaces for people to be able to connect with other humans.
I love this so much.
And then within that, I think when you are connecting with other humans, it allows you so much to reconnect with yourself.
Amen.
Because it reminds us that we're all human, because we can be alone and be stuck in our heads and be telling ourselves all of these stories about how much we're not enough, that we can't do anything different, when in actuality, we're all pretty much struggling mentally with the same stuff. Different ways, right? But all had the same stories.
The worthiness.
The worthiness. And that's huge.
Yeah.
And so
it might look a little different, or you might have a different word for it, but essentially it's that whole am I enough thing.
Right.
Can I do it? All of that.
All of that.
Yeah.
And I think that if I can connect people and them have this realization and this peace that comes from being part of something, whether it's a short-term moment, short-term event, or more of a long-term community, then that's super fulfilling to me.
It's also incredibly powerful for them. I had an experience about 10 years ago with a group of women that really shifted my thinking along the lines of what you're doing. And just to let you know how powerful it can be, this was not necessarily a curated event like what you're doing, but it was a bachelorette retreat. We went away for the weekend. I knew two of the girls. There were, I think, 7 of us. They had all been friends since like middle high school.
Oh, gosh.
And I was the new friend. And I was a little bit scared.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Right? Because it's all these women and they're super tight and whatever. I ended up crying in the middle of it because I felt so blessed to know them. They were the most welcoming, loving, incredibly warm group of women I could have ever imagined to spend time with.
That's beautiful.
It was such a beautiful experience because I was a little like unsure. I loved the bride and her maid of honor. I had connected with them over the last maybe like 2 or 3 years prior. And they were like, please come with us. Everybody else was in the wedding. I wasn't, but they were like, please come with us. We just love you and we think you'll have a great time. It was a beach trip to like Miami. And I was like, I'm going to be brave and go. I'm going to be brave and go. Because I would have talked myself out of it before. And it was the best, most awesome experience I could have had. And I've stayed in touch with most of them. You know, like brand new set of friends. And crazy.
And don't you find that when moments where you would typically say no or have reservations, if you just do it anyway, how rewarding it becomes? Whether it's you're feeling free, you develop these new relationships. Have you ever been skydiving?
No, that's probably not something I'm willing to do, but I appreciate that you're willing to challenge me.
So I had that same feeling where I didn't think I'd want to ever do anything like that. I would never
jump out of a perfectly good airplane.
Why would you do that?
Why?
Like that's the dumbest thing you could ever do. And then in 2021, my life got turned upside down. And so what was my norm and what I was comfortable with, like, had all just been ripped away. So there was nothing that felt good or comfortable. So I started challenging myself to do really uncomfortable things. And I say this because we're talking about this discomfort that sometimes comes before you go meet new people, before you go on that solo trip. But I started saying yes to things and doing things I'd never do. And the other piece of that, being a mom, is I never want my children not to want to do something because I was afraid to do it. So I actually signed myself up to go skydiving when I was visiting one of my dear friends in Florida that fall. And as I'm like going up, I'm like, oh my goodness, this was such a bad idea. Why would I do this? And I remember, like, you don't really get a choice at some point, right?
They push you out.
Like, they jump out with you, like you're attached, like tandem with somebody else that knows what they're doing, which is a little bit of a relief. But I remember, so we end up jumping out of this airplane, and there was this moment, you know, in your free fall where it doesn't really matter. You know, like what's going to happen in 5 seconds, what happened, 5 minutes ago. And so there's this amazing peace that came with it. And it wasn't the adrenaline rush for me. It was just that moment of peace. And I think that that's just something I look to a lot in trying to make decisions, whether it's day to day or trying something new, is that sometimes the scariest things bring out like the best opportunities, and opportunities don't always just show up. And sometimes when they do, you just gotta jump and go for it. So
I love that. And I feel like that's kind of like a natural wrap up to this conversation. But is there anything else, Amanda, as we've been talking, that's kind of come to the surface, like a message or something that you feel like you want to share?
I think that the biggest message we've talked about is that we all struggle with feeling worthy. And being surrounded by a community of strong women and men is important. But I think the biggest thing I have to tell people is like, go for it. Yeah. Jump. You don't have to live in your tiny little box. And even when it's scary, let's just go do it. Find someone to drag along with you.
I love it. And thank you for doing this today. I know it was a little bit scary for you, but was it fun?
It was super fun. I really appreciate you asking me. Yeah. I was really excited to come and talk about it because it is exciting.
Well, you'll have to come back.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll have to do a mobile session in Portugal.
The Celebrating Women podcast wants to hear from you. Email us a voice message to celebratingwomenpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear your story or the story of an incredible woman you know. Become part of the conversation on social media. Facebook.com/celebratingwomenpodcast. On Instagram, search Celebrating Women Podcast. The Celebrating Women podcast has been presented by Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. Book your appointment today. Stop by the spa in Cumberland Shopping Center or online at handandstonetyler.com. Support the show for as little as $3 per month at celebratingwomenpodcast.buzzsprout.com or visit our show notes. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to the Celebrating Women podcast.